Colin, alluding to our conversation the other day, thoughts on why more people are welcoming of Andor's subversive storytelling, but not the deconstruction of Luke and the Jedi. So, there's been this growing frustration amongst many of us, the way that Disney keeps doing, like, deconstructing all of, like, my childhood heroes. Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Buzz Lightyear, Indiana Jones, Kenobi, the Jedi as a whole, and taking characters that at one point in time were these strong heroes and then showing them as old men that are failures or have become cynical, or in the case of the Jedi, taking things that were said in the prequels and like way expanding on them to the point of, you know, you watch episode 3 of The Acolyte and you're like, the Jedi, like there's this cult that feels like they're on the run because they're persecuted by the Jedi for wanting to practice their religion.
This is about power and who is allowed to use it.
And like it really puts the Jedi in, as like these fascists that are crushing anyone that doesn't share their religious beliefs, and they're trying to they like say like we have the right to test your kids to see if we get to take your kids, and you're like, what on earth? You are so overplaying something that was like implied or a small thing before, but you're framing it where the Jedi are the worst. And so Colin asked me over DM recently, like, why is it that seems really off-putting to a lot of us, but a lot of it, we also enjoyed what Andor did. Andor also portrays the dark side of the rebellion, which is to say they were terrorists that killed people and did other bad things in order to stop something worse. And I think the fundamental difference in so much of it is that it doesn't take someone that's already established as of being of strong moral character and pull them down. It doesn't feel like a character assassination to have Lucian, is that his Skarsgård's name, be this guy that's willing to do very evil things to stop something worse. We're not compromising him. Whereas you see Luke stood for hope, and then you show him as super cynical. It feels like you changed a character. What Luke meant to me has been changed. What he stood for to me has been changed through this deconstruction, through this showing him as broken and old. And so it's character assassination. But the idea that the rebellion were terrorists, well, that was always built into it. Now, they were terrorists that needed to be terrorists, but like they blew up the Death Star. How many people did Luke kill when he blew up the Death Star? Or how many people did Anakin kill when he blew up the Death Star?
I understood that reference.
A lot of people died, and Andor embraces the reality of that. What does that actually mean? What is the moral consequences of the rebellion? And it lets you sit in that. It's a more mature version of it. It's not just as simple of black and white, good versus evil, and we just kind of gloss over that Luke Skywalker just killed thousands and thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of people. He killed them, and then we put a ward on his medal around his neck because we don't linger on what actually just happened. We don't even linger on Alderaan being blown up. Andor pauses to think about what's really happening in a mature way. It's not the show that kids watch for kids to watch, but for adults, it's more mature, and it doesn't. You don't think that our good guys are bad guys because of it. You're not like on this. Oh man, actually, the Empire was right. The rebels suck. It doesn't do that. It just makes you think about what actually had to take place to take down the Empire. As opposed to, you watch episode 3 of The Acolyte, and the way that it presents the Jedi, you take this classic story of good versus evil, quite literally, the light side versus the dark side, the guardians of peace versus the ones pursuing power, and And instead, it tries to say that the bad guys aren't actually bad and the good guys actually are pretty bad. And they're evil and they're trying to control people. And it's not that the bad guys are just fully the good guys. Nobody's good. So a classic story of good versus evil, and now nobody's good. And so in my mind, like, I grew up with the original trilogy. For the first 18 years of my life, 17 years of my life, all I had was the original trilogy talking of how the Jedi are great and they're the heroes. And then the prequel trilogy showed them as their fall, their faults, and how that led to their demise. But even that it still showed them as heroes with flaws. Versus now, they're not portrayed as heroes anymore. They're like police, they're like CPS trying to take people's kids. That's weird. That's strange. That's such a change in dynamic of what they always stood for before. And it's a change. Andor doesn't change my perspective of the rebellion. It gives me a richer version of it that's more mature. Eyes acting weird. Acolyte episode 3 just deconstructs. It breaks down. No, the heroes aren't actually heroes. And that's, I think, what so many people are just rejecting. Like, no, stop trying to change Star Wars. Stop trying to break away the fundamental pieces of it. The fundamental pieces are the same in Andor. That thing is bad, and we need to do radical things to stop them, because that's the only way to stop them. Nothing changed. It's just playing it out. Saying the Jedi are creeps stealing kids, trying to steal kids, that are squash anyone that doesn't share their beliefs, that fundamentally presents them in a radically different light. Most of these clips are pulled from my Patreon live streams. I do about 6 live streams every single month. For $2 per month, $20 per year, you can get access to all the exclusive videos and live streams. For $5 per month, you get your name on my end card. At the top tier, you get a 30-minute video chat with me each month. The link down below in the description has more information.